Azeroth had existed since the birth of galaxies, yet never had the ancient cosmic entity felt such peculiar vibrations rippling through the fabric of reality. The disturbance emanated from an unremarkable spiral galaxy, specifically from a tiny blue planet that barely registered in the grand tapestry of existence. Earth, the humans called it. Impossible, Azeroth murmured, its consciousness extending toward the source of the anomaly. The energy signature was unmistakable. Someone, or something, was manipulating primordial forces. Such power belonged exclusively to the cosmic entities, beings who had witnessed the first stars ignite and would watch the last ones fade. No mere mortal could possibly. The truth struck Azeroth like a supernova. Humans, those fleeting sparks of consciousness, whose entire civilization lasted less than a cosmic breath, had somehow learned to harness energies that predated time itself. Administrator Virix must be informed, Azeroth decided, sending a pulse through the cosmic web that connected the universe's guardians. Within moments, a vast consciousness assembled before him, its form rippling with the power of 1,000 quasars. "Speak, Observer Azeroth," Virix commanded, its voice resonating through multiple dimensions. "What warrants such an urgent summons?" "The humans, Administrator. They've done something unprecedented. They're channeling primordial energy." Virix's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "Surely you jest. These beings barely understand their own atomic structure. They still think dark matter is mysterious. I wish I were mistaken." Azeroth projected the energy readings toward Virix. "They've created devices, crude by our standards, but functional, that tap directly into the universe's fundamental forces, not just gravity or electromagnetism, but the deep currents that flow beneath reality itself." The amusement in Virix's presence vanished. "Show me." Together, they focused their awareness on a facility deep beneath the Earth's surface. Humans in white protective suits moved around complex machinery that hummed with familiar yet distorted energy signatures. At the center of it all stood a device that should not have been possible, a crystalline structure that pulsed with primordial light. "They've constructed a resonance matrix," Virix observed, genuine concern now evident in its cosmic voice. "Primitive, unstable, but functional. How did they achieve this?" "That's not the most troubling part," Azeroth continued. "Watch." A human approached the matrix, holding what appeared to be a simple handheld device. As they adjusted some controls, the matrix's energy shifted, focused, and then stabilized at a completely different frequency. "They can control it," Virix stated flatly. "These beings, who live less than a cosmic microsecond, have learned to manipulate forces that took us Uns to master. Should we intervene?" Azeroth asked. This level of advancement wasn't predicted for at least another million of their years. Virix's form pulsed with deep thought. "First, we must understand. How did they achieve this? What drove them to even attempt something so far beyond their supposed capabilities?" The answer came from monitoring the humans' communications. A young scientist was explaining to a newcomer. "See, we knew the math worked in theory, but everyone said it was impossible in practice. Too much energy required, too precise calculations needed. But then Dr. Chen had this crazy idea. What if we used the quantum fluctuations themselves to stabilize the matrix? Everyone said it would never work. Took us 3 years of failures to prove them wrong." "Fascinating," Virix commented. "They succeed not despite their limitations, but because of them. Their brief lives drive them to find shortcuts, workarounds, solutions we would never consider because we have the luxury of time." "But surely this makes them more dangerous, not less," Azeroth argued. "They've compressed millions of years of natural development into mere decades. What other cosmic laws might they bypass?" Indeed, Virix's presence expanded, taking in more of the facility. "Look there, they're already attempting to modify the matrix's temporal harmonics. They don't even fully understand what they're doing, yet they press forward, driven by nothing more than curiosity and determination. We should stop them, Azeroth insisted, for their own safety, if nothing else. One miscalculation with forces at this level could destroy their entire solar system. No, Virix decided after a long moment. We will watch and we will learn. These humans, they're showing us something important, something we may have forgotten in our eons of existence. What could beings so young possibly teach us? That perhaps the greatest power in the universe is not the ability to control cosmic forces, Virix responded, but the audacity to try what everyone else considers impossible. The facility buzzed with activity as the humans continued their work, blissfully unaware of the cosmic entities debating their fate. A young researcher adjusted an equation on a whiteboard, while another calibrated instruments with careful precision. Their determination was palpable, their excitement at each tiny breakthrough genuine. Very well, Azeroth conceded. We'll observe, but what do we tell the Council? They'll want to know about this development. We tell them the truth, Virix said, its cosmic form shimmering with what might have been amusement again. That humanity has become the most unpredictable force in the universe, not because of their power, but because they don't know what they can't do. As they withdrew their consciousness from Earth, the primordial energy readings continued to pulse and shift, each change representing another small step forward in humanity's impossible journey. The cosmic entities had witnessed the birth of countless civilizations, but for the first time in eons, they felt something new. Uncertainty about what might come next. And deep in their vast, ancient consciousness, they recognized another feeling. Anticipation. The humans were just getting started. The Council of Cosmic Entities convened in a space between dimensions, their forms writhing with barely contained agitation. Azeroth and Virix had just finished presenting their observations of humanity's achievements, and the response was exactly what they had feared. This cannot be allowed to continue, declared Nexer, a being composed of pure energy and ancient wisdom. These humans demonstrate no regard for the natural progression of species. They're like children playing with universe-ending weapons. Children who have somehow mastered principles that took us millennia to grasp. Virix reminded them. Their methods may be unorthodox, but their results are undeniable. A wave of disapproval rippled through the assembled entities. Celestia, who had watched over countless civilizations rise and fall, moved forward. Her form shimmered like a constellation given consciousness. Then we must act now, before they progress further, she stated. A targeted temporal disruption should be sufficient. Set their development back a few centuries. Let them advance along more appropriate paths. I volunteer to implement the correction, Nexer offered, already beginning to shift his form into the necessary configuration. Wait, Azeroth interjected. Perhaps we should observe their response to a smaller intervention first. Test their adaptability. The Council murmured in agreement, and Nexer was dispatched to Earth with a simple mission. Disrupt the humans' energy experimentation with a localized quantum fluctuation. It should have been like taking a toy from a child. 3 days later, a shaken Nexer returned to the Council. Report, Celestia commanded. They adapted, Nexer said, his energy form flickering with disbelief. We introduced the quantum disruption exactly as planned. Their instruments should have failed, their calculations become meaningless. But instead, Virix prompted, a note of satisfaction in their cosmic voice. They treated our intervention as data. Within hours, they had adjusted their equations to account for the new variables. Within days, they had developed countermeasures. They're now using our own disruption field to power a secondary set of experiments. Silence fell over the Council. What Nexer described should have been impossible. Species weren't supposed to adapt that quickly, especially not to direct cosmic intervention. Show us, Celestia demanded. The Council turned their collective consciousness toward Earth, focusing on the facility they had previously observed. The scene that unfolded left even these ancient beings stunned. Human scientists hurried about their work with renewed vigor. On multiple screens, data scrolled past. data that clearly showed they had not only detected the Council's intervention, but had begun to understand its underlying principles. Remarkable, one of the human scientists was saying. The quantum fluctuation field they introduced actually stabilizes the secondary harmonic if we inverse the polarity at exactly the right moment. It's like they handed us a key we didn't even know we needed. They think it was a natural phenomenon. Another council member observed. Does it matter what they think? Nexer demanded. They're turning our attempts to hinder them into stepping stones for further advancement. This defies all known patterns of species development. Vyrex's form pulsed with what could only be described as satisfaction. Perhaps that's precisely why they're succeeding. They don't know what should be impossible, so they try anyway. And in trying, they discover new possibilities that we, in our ancient wisdom, had overlooked. The humans continued their work, oblivious to the cosmic debate their actions had sparked. A young researcher was excitedly explaining a new theory to her colleagues, her hands moving animatedly as she described how they could potentially use the natural quantum anomaly to achieve what she called controlled reality phase shifting. They're approaching dimensional manipulation, Celestia realized with alarm. At this rate, they'll achieve cosmic consciousness within decades rather than the expected millions of years. We could still stop them, Nexer insisted. A more direct intervention. No, Vyrex interrupted. Can't you see? Every obstacle we place in their path becomes a tool in their hands. Every limit we impose becomes a challenge to overcome. They're teaching us something profound about the nature of progress itself. And what is that? Celestia asked, her form shimmering with curious light. That perhaps the laws we uphold are not as immutable as we believed. These humans, with their brief lives and limited perspective, see possibilities where we see only rules. They don't break the laws of reality. They find the loopholes, the exceptions, the unexpected interactions that we never thought to explore. The Council watched as the humans celebrated another breakthrough, their joy at discovery radiating like a beacon through the cosmic consciousness. Their experiments had already progressed beyond what the Council's intervention should have allowed. We must adapt as well, Azeroth suggested. Instead of trying to stop them, perhaps we should try to understand them. Their perspective clearly offers insights we have missed in our eons of existence. The Council's collective consciousness rippled with uncertainty. In all their vast existence, they had never encountered a species that forced them to question their own understanding of the universe's laws. As they debated, humanity continued its work, pushing boundaries they didn't know existed, finding solutions to problems they weren't supposed to comprehend. And in doing so, they were rewriting not just their own destiny, but the very nature of what was possible in a universe that was proving far more flexible than even its oldest inhabitants had imagined. The cosmic entities had intended to teach humanity its place in the universal order. Instead, they were learning a humbling lesson about the power of determination, creativity, and the unstoppable force of a species that simply refused to accept the impossible as an answer. The research facility beneath Earth's surface had changed dramatically in the weeks following the Council's failed intervention. What had once been a single experimental chamber had expanded into a sprawling complex of interconnected laboratories, each humming with energies that should have been beyond human comprehension. But it was the latest development that had drawn the full attention of the cosmic entities. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had begun to perceive the observers themselves. Dr. Rivera, a young physicist, burst into the central control room, her tablet displaying a cascade of complex readings. We're detecting those anomalous patterns again, but this time they're different, more structured, almost like they're watching us. Dr. Rivera completed the thought, her dark eyes studying the data with intense focus. Run it through the new quantum interpretation matrix. Let's see what we're really looking at. Celestia, observing alongside Vyrex and Azeroth, shifted uncomfortably. They're developing sensory awareness of higher dimensions. This is proceeding far too rapidly. Look at their methodology, Viriks countered, fascination evident in their cosmic resonance. They're not evolving natural perception, as species normally would. They're building tools to extend their senses, creating technology to bridge the gaps in their own capabilities. On the laboratory screens, a new image was forming, a crude but recognizable representation of the cosmic entity's observational presence. The humans had effectively created a lens through which they could glimpse beings that existed beyond their dimensional framework. Remarkable, Azeroth commented. They're not just seeing us, they're trying to understand what they're seeing. Look at their data analysis. The research team had indeed begun cataloging and analyzing every aspect of their observations. They created models, proposed theories, and designed experiments to test their hypotheses about the nature of what they were detecting. They're treating us like a natural phenomenon to be studied, Celestia realized, her form flickering with something between amusement and concern, just as they did with our intervention. In the lab, Dr. Rivera was addressing her team. Whatever these entities are, they're clearly conscious and incredibly advanced. The energy patterns suggest they exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, operating on a scale we can barely comprehend. But that doesn't mean we can't learn from them. Learn from us. Nexer had joined the observation, his energy form crackling with indignation. We are the fundamental forces of the universe given consciousness. We are not some phenomenon to be studied by primitive beings. And yet, Viriks noted dryly, they are studying us quite effectively. The humans had begun a new series of experiments, attempting to establish what they called cross-dimensional resonance patterns. They weren't trying to communicate in any traditional sense. Instead, they were attempting to create harmonics that would naturally propagate across dimensional boundaries. They're not just trying to see us, Azeroth realized. They're trying to bridge the gap between our realms of existence, and they're doing it by working with the universe's fundamental properties rather than trying to force their way through. The cosmic entities watched as the humans refined their approach through countless iterations. Each failure was met not with discouragement but with enthusiastic analysis and new hypotheses. They treated each setback as a data point, each unexpected result as a clue to a greater understanding. There, Dr. Rivera's voice carried clear excitement as new readings appeared on their screens. The resonance patterns are stabilizing. Whatever these entities are, they're maintaining a consistent observational presence, if we can just find the right frequency. The lab hummed with energy as they activated their latest experimental configuration. This time, something different happened. The humans' instruments registered a clear, unmistakable pattern, a direct response to their efforts. Did one of you? Celestia began, looking at her fellow cosmic entities. No, Viriks answered, but they've created a channel through which we could communicate, should we choose to. Not through power or cosmic manipulation, but through a careful understanding of natural universal harmonics. They found a way to talk to gods by studying physics. The implications of this development rippled through the cosmic consciousness like waves through the fabric of space-time. Humanity had not only perceived them, but had found a way to potentially interact with beings that existed beyond their dimensional framework. They had done it not through any innate ability or cosmic power, but through observation, analysis, and innovative application of universal principles. We have a decision to make, Azeroth stated, addressing the gathered cosmic entities. They've opened a door. Do we step through? The humans continued their work, their instruments recording the intense discussion taking place beyond their full perception. Their dedication never wavered, their curiosity driving them forward, even as they stood on the brink of a discovery that would forever change their understanding of existence. Dr. Rivera studied the latest readings, a slight smile playing at her lips. Whatever you are, she murmured, wherever you are, we're ready to learn, if you're willing to teach. The cosmic entities shared what might have been termed a glance in beings of their nature. For the first time in their incomprehensibly long existence, they faced a truly novel situation. a young species that had earned their attention not through power or longevity, but through sheer ingenuity and determination. The paradigm had indeed shifted, but perhaps not in the way anyone, cosmic or mortal, had expected. The question was no longer whether humanity would be allowed to advance, but what they might teach the universe's oldest beings about the nature of progress itself. The decision to establish direct contact with humanity proved more complicated than even the cosmic entities had anticipated. Not because of any technical limitations, the humans had indeed created a viable communication channel, but because of an unprecedented cosmic crisis that forced both sides into action. It began with a disturbance at the edge of reality itself. Something was wrong with the fundamental fabric of space-time, a corruption spreading through the cosmic framework like cracks in glass. Even the eldest among the cosmic entities had never encountered anything quite like it. The barrier between dimensions is destabilizing, Celestia announced to the council, her form flickering with barely contained concern. If it continues, entire regions of space-time will collapse. We can contain it, Nexer insisted, but his confidence wavered as new data flowed through their cosmic awareness. The corruption was spreading faster than anticipated, defying their attempts to isolate it. No, Vyrix stated flatly, we cannot. Not alone. Our traditional methods are proving ineffective. We need a different perspective. All attention turned to the human facility, where Dr. Rivera and her team had already detected the disturbance through their instruments. Their response was characteristically human, immediate, innovative, and completely unexpected. Look at these readings, Dr. Rivera was saying, gesturing to a holographic display filled with complex equations. The dimensional instability is following a pattern. It's not random degradation. It's more like a cascade failure in a complex system, like a power grid collapse, suggested one of her colleagues, studying the data. Exactly. And if we treat it like a systems engineering problem rather than a purely physical one. She trailed off, her fingers flying over a keyboard as she modified their theoretical models. The cosmic entities watched with growing interest as the humans applied their unique problem-solving approach to a crisis that threatened the very fabric of reality. They're modeling the dimensional breakdown as if it were a network failure. Azeroth observed, fascination evident in their cosmic resonance, a perspective that never occurred to us. Because we see reality as it fundamentally is, Celestia replied. They see it as a system to be understood and managed. And perhaps that's exactly what we need. Vyrix completed the thought. It's time to make contact. The moment of first deliberate contact between cosmic entities and humanity was not the grand ceremonial event that either side might have imagined. Instead, it was born of urgent necessity, initiated through the crude but effective channel the humans had established. Dr. Rivera was the first to notice the change in their instruments. The usual background patterns of cosmic observation had shifted into something more structured, more intentional. As she watched, the patterns resolved themselves into clear mathematical communications. They're not just watching anymore, she announced to her team, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. They're reaching out, and I think I know why. The exchange that followed would have been incomprehensible to most observers. The cosmic entities shared their understanding of reality's fundamental nature, while the humans offered their insights into system dynamics and failure cascade prevention. Each side translated for the other, building a bridge between two radically different ways of perceiving and interacting with the universe. Your models suggest a solution we hadn't considered, Vyrix communicated through the quantum interface. By treating the dimensional boundaries as interconnected nodes rather than absolute barriers, we can isolate the cascade points and implement targeted stabilization measures, Dr. Rivera completed, her team already programming the necessary adjustments into their experimental apparatus. But we'll need your help to implement it on the required scale. What followed was unprecedented in the history of the cosmos, a collaboration between the universe's oldest conscious entities and one of its youngest sapient species. The cosmic beings provided the raw power and fundamental understanding of reality's architecture, while the humans contributed their unique problem-solving approach and ability to see new patterns in old problems. "Ready on our end," Dr. Rivera announced, her hand steady on the controls despite the weight of literal universes hanging in the balance. "Beginning stabilization sequence on your mark." The combined effort sent ripples through multiple dimensions. Human-designed algorithms guided cosmic power with surgical precision, targeting the weak points in reality's fabric that their analysis had identified. It was neither the brute force approach the cosmic entities would have attempted alone, nor the purely theoretical solution humans might have devised in isolation. It was something entirely new, a perfect synthesis of both approaches. As the dimensional instability began to recede, Celestia addressed the council. "We were wrong," she admitted, her form shimmering with newfound understanding. "We saw their short lives and limited perception as weaknesses. But these very limitations drove them to develop strengths we never needed, and thus never discovered." "They succeeded," Nexer observed, watching the humans celebrate their joint victory. "Not because they were powerful, but because they refused to accept that a problem might be unsolvable." "No," Varix corrected. "They succeeded because they showed us that even we, with all our power and ancient wisdom, still have much to learn. They reminded us that the universe holds infinite possibilities for those willing to seek new perspectives." In the laboratory, Dr. Rivera and her team were already analyzing the data from their successful intervention, learning everything they could from the experience. They had just helped save reality itself, yet their first instinct was to understand how they could do it better next time. The cosmic entities shared what might have been termed a collective smile. In helping to save the universe, humanity had proven something profound: that true wisdom comes not from power or longevity, but from the willingness to never stop learning, growing, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The convergence had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the history of existence itself. In the aftermath of the dimensional crisis, something fundamental had changed in the relationship between cosmic entities and humanity. The council chambers, once a place of pure cosmic consciousness, now featured interfaces designed by humans that allowed for clearer communication between the realms. It was a small change that represented an enormous shift in perspective. They'd done it again, Azeroth announced to the assembled council, projecting the latest data from Earth. They found a way to improve our own methods of cosmic observation. The council studied the human innovation, a hybrid system that combined their natural cosmic awareness with human-developed quantum sensing technology. It was, by any measure, more efficient than their traditional approaches. How do they continue to surprise us? Nexer wondered, his former skepticism replaced by genuine curiosity. They've existed for less than a cosmic instant, yet they've revolutionized processes we've used for eons. Perhaps, Varric suggested, that's precisely why they succeed where we stagnated. Their brief existence forces them to think differently, to seek shortcuts and alternatives we never considered necessary. In the Earth facility, now expanded into a sprawling research complex, Dr. Rivera was leading a new initiative. The humans had begun exploring what they called dimensional engineering, not merely observing or interacting with higher dimensions, but actively working to understand and utilize their properties. It's elegant, really, she explained to a group of cosmic observers who had taken an interest in human methods. We can't naturally perceive or manipulate these forces like you can, so we had to develop tools and theories to bridge that gap. In doing so, we discovered aspects of dimensional mechanics that even you hadn't explored. Because we never needed to, Celestia realized, her form shimmering with newfound understanding. We simply existed within these higher dimensions, accepting them as they were. Humans had to understand them to interact with them at all. The truth that had been gradually emerging now crystallized into perfect clarity. Humanity's greatest strength was not their resilience, their creativity, or even their determination. Though all these played their part, it was their fundamental need to understand. Look at their history, Virix prompted, projecting images of human scientific advancement through the ages. Every time they encountered a limitation, they didn't just try to overcome it. They worked to understand why it existed in the first place, and in understanding, they often found ways to transcend it entirely. The council watched as humans continued their work, constantly pushing boundaries, asking questions, seeking deeper understanding. They had taken their inability to naturally perceive higher dimensions and turned it into an advantage, developing technologies and theories that offered new insights into the very nature of reality. Evolution's greatest jest, Azeroth Muse, was to create a species so seemingly limited that they had no choice but to become unlimited. Dr. Rivera and her team had moved on to new projects, each more ambitious than the last. They weren't content merely to communicate with cosmic entities. They wanted to understand how such beings had come to exist, what fundamental principles allowed for consciousness on such a scale, how the very fabric of reality supported such existence. "We should be cautious," one of the younger cosmic entities warned. "At this rate, they'll achieve cosmic consciousness themselves within a few centuries." "No," Virix corrected, "they'll achieve something different, something potentially even more remarkable. They won't simply attain cosmic consciousness, they'll understand it. And in understanding it, they'll likely find ways to improve upon it that we never imagined possible." The truth of this statement was already becoming apparent. Human theories about the nature of cosmic consciousness had begun to identify patterns and principles that the cosmic entities themselves had never recognized, simply because they had never needed to analyze their own existence in such detail. "Then what becomes of us?" Nexer asked. "What is our role in a universe where mortality and limitation breed greater understanding than cosmic power?" "We evolve," Celestia answered simply. "We learn from them as they learn from us. We combine their drive to understand with our natural capabilities. We grow, not through power or longevity, but through the very thing that makes humans so remarkable, the endless desire to know more, to do better, to push beyond what seems possible." In the research facility, Dr. Rivera was reviewing data from their latest experiments, a slight smile playing at her lips. "You know what's funny?" she said to no one in particular. "We started all this because we wanted to understand the universe better. Now we're helping the universe understand itself." The cosmic entities shared what might have been termed a laugh, a ripple of appreciation through the fabric of reality itself. Evolution had indeed played a cosmic jest, but perhaps the joke was on anyone who thought power alone was the path to advancement. Humanity, with all its limitations and brief existence, had proven that understanding was the true key to unlocking the universe's potential. Their very weaknesses had forced them to develop strengths that even the gods had never imagined possible. And as both humans and cosmic entities looked toward the future, one thing became abundantly clear: this was only the beginning. For in a universe of infinite possibilities, the greatest power of all was the drive to understand them. The gods had once feared humanity's potential. Now they welcomed it, recognizing that true evolution came not from power or permanence, but from the endless quest to understand, to improve, and to grow. In their brief cosmic instant, humans had taught the universe itself a lesson about the true nature of progress. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, evolution smiled at its most successful experiment yet, a species whose greatest weakness had become the source of their greatest strength.